Welcome into the CBS Sports Network, where we're going to be talking college basketball recruiting, and even some NBA draft over the course of the next hour. Joining me right off the bat are Eric Bossi and Travis Branham, and we're going to be seeing a lot of each other this weekend because it is a huge weekend in high school hoops. The Panini Hoop Ball Classic takes place in Springfield, Massachusetts, which is the birthplace of basketball, the home of the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame. And the event is always the location, not just of great matchups, but sometimes of some surprise commitments. So we have commitment watch out and ready for the coming weekend. Guys, just going to talk about some of the players that we think could be on the verge of an announcement, whether it's in the next few days or the next few weeks, but just guys that we have our eyes on. Trav, let me start with you. Dylan Mingo was someone that a lot of people are starting to wonder out loud about. What is the latest with the Long Island Lutheran guard?
Yeah, so there was a lot of talk last month going into City of Palms that he could be gearing up for a decision down there. However, he decided to push things off into the month of January. And now that it is here, as you said, Hoop Hall has been a place where a lot of kids have made their decisions over the years. And he is one that I'm keeping an extremely close eye on. Talking to my sources, it sounds like a decision could come anytime within the next week or two. And as I have said on this show, he is the top three schools that have been most discussed have been Penn State, North Carolina, and Baylor. But as I said on this show, this thing is coming down to North Carolina and Baylor. And as of today, I give the edge to Baylor. We have plugged in a crystal ball prediction for the Baylor Bears. However, I'm still not fully ruling out North Carolina on this one. I think things could take a last minute change as we have seen over the course of the recruitments in this new era. But right now, I feel really good for Scott Drew and the Bears.
All right, so we're deducting from that Penn State, where his brother Caden Mingo is currently a freshman, no longer expected to get that commitment. That was, Trav, let me just ask you the follow-up there. Like, how big of a factor was his brother in this recruitment? Because there was a lot of speculation that these guys wanted to be reunited after playing together prior to this season.
Yeah, that's always been the topic of discussion, even going back to Caden Mingo when he was going through this recruiting process about how the two would like to end up playing together. However, it sounds as though that the factor of becoming a one and done, we have him ranked top 5 overall or number 6 overall in the country. And so being a one and done sounds to be a real factor in this recruitment, and the success that Scott Drew and the Baylor Bears have had with guards over the years sounds to be having a major influence on this one.
And I think certainly another relevant point there is the 2027 draft is expected to be wide open, and 30 players are going to have to be first round picks, even if they wouldn't be in other years. Bossi, want to ask you about Caden Samuels from Bishop McNamara High School in Maryland. This is a player who, I think well over a month ago now, we reported on this show we were expecting the commitment to Alabama. There was some thought that he was waiting to announce on his birthday. It never happened. There was speculation that maybe he signed and it just wasn't publicized. So my question to you is, since nothing is still yet out in the public sphere, has anything changed, or are we still expecting this to end up being going Alabama's way?
So far as we know, nothing has changed at this point, and we are definitely still expecting it to go Alabama's way. Kids are interesting, and he's surely got his reasons for why he's wanting to wait, and maybe he wants to get a chance to announce on TV. Who knows? But as things stand, we're still expecting Alabama to get Samuels. He's a big, strong wing who can really get hot from outside. Certainly fits the mold of a guy that Nate Oates wants, who's going to shoot a lot of threes and then otherwise score at the rim and really not do a lot of mid-range shots, even though he does have a little bit of that in his bag. But unless something changes or we hear something new, we're still looking at Alabama as the heavy favorite here.
All right, still expecting Caden Samuels to end up playing for Nate Oates. One potentially that could, I would just say this. I think because we've been on that commitment watch for well over a month now, we expect that it's conceivable it could drop on any day. Certainly, this is a weekend that a lot of players have circled on their calendar. Trav, speaking of Alabama, Chris Washington is a prospect that was committed to Nate Oates earlier in the cycle. He ended up reopening his recruitment, and now it sounds like he's headed towards the finish line for a second time. What can you tell us?
Yeah, obviously him and Caden Samuels were strongly linked. Once Alabama emerged as the heavy favorite for Caden Samuels is when Chris Washington reopened his recruitment. And as of today, he is currently planning to officially visit Tennessee at the end of the month. And he comes from the Bobby Mays AAU Elite program. And if you know anything about Tennessee, they have a strong history of getting guys out of this AAU program, including their current star point guard in Jacoby Gillespie. And so the Tennessee Volunteers are one that I'll be keeping a close eye on for him to potentially stay home and play for.
All right, so it sounds like the Vols are establishing themselves as a leader for Chris Washington. Chris Washington, one of the very best athletes in the national class, a jumbo wing at about 6'9", covers the court effortlessly, play above the rim like few others can. And if Rick Barnes or anyone else for that matter can really weaponize those physical gifts on the defensive end of the floor, it would not be a stretch to, he's certainly got the physical tools to evolve into a game-changing defender. And we know that's a big part of the culture over there at Tennessee. All right, Bossy, want to ask you about Quincy Wadley. This is a guy who's having a very solid season out at AZ Compass Prep, playing in the EYBL Scholastic. He's someone that early on in the fall, it seemed like there was a two-horse race in his recruitment, but Pittsburgh ended up going another direction. Cal was the school that got an early visit. We've seen some other schools offer scholarships more recently. Is this something that's trending towards opening back up, or is this something that's narrowing back towards a favorite or two?
I think it's starting to narrow back down. Like you mentioned, Pitt was one that was heavy involved early, but with what they did in their early recruiting class, they're kind of out of the picture now. BYU came up hot and heavy for a little while, and for a minute, it looked like he may entertain enrolling at semester in Provo, but that didn't happen. And through it all, as other teams have come and gone, Cal has stood tall and is still very involved. I saw Quincy just a little bit over a week ago when we were out at the Hoop Hall West. He said that he's definitely coming close to a decision. And all signs are pointing to Cal from what people around the situation are saying and what we're hearing, out on the street, checking with our sources. So unless he sets up another visit in the very near future, you got to like where Mark Madsen and his team are looking. And, as a 6'4" shot maker who can also go and get it off the dribble and has some athleticism, he's a guy who really has a chance to come in and play big minutes right away if he does indeed end up going to Berkeley.
All right, so just to summarize all this, we are on commitment watch for Dylan Mingo with the assumption that Baylor could be the leader, for Caden Samuels with the assumption that Alabama remains the leader. Chris Washington, we've got our eye on Tennessee, and Quincy Wadley for California. Trav, just want to wrap it up with this. Is there anyone else you've got your radar up for in the next coming days or even coming weeks?
The one that really jumps off is Trevor Manhertz, a class of 2027 wing. He is expected to be making his decision any week now. And one of the things to look for in this recruitment is the possibility that he will reclassify to the class of 2026. And he is down to 3 finalists in Duke, Louisville, and Indiana. Has visited all 3 programs recently. And so we are expecting that decision to come very soon.
All right, fellas, great stuff as always. We will see you in the birthplace tomorrow. And, of course, we will have full coverage of the Panini Hoop Hall Classic over at 247sports.com. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back for some NBA draft breakdown. We're talking the big men next, right here on the CBS Sports Network. Welcome back to the CBS Sports Network, where we are going to start to look ahead to NBA draft season. And one of the things we're going to start to do is to take a look at one position at a time. We're going to begin today with the big men. Now, what's interesting about this class of big men is it is not necessarily as deep as some of the previous classes. And there's a lot of prospects that let's say, attract a wide variety of opinions. So what we're going to do between myself, Travis Branham, and Kyle Boone is we're going to go down 5 of the most debated prospects. We're going to leave Jaden Quaintance out because we just haven't seen him play enough basketball, but he is certainly a name that is atop the CBS Sports big board right now in terms of big men. But as I said, just hasn't played enough basketball. So we're going to talk about 5 guys, and it's going to begin with Chris Senak. This is someone who was in the headlines this week. Kelvin Sampson laid out this doozy of a quote. I mean, this is high praise for someone who came in who had a questionable motor in the past. Here's what Coach Sampson said. "I love that kid. He never has a bad day, and I have worn him out. He's never, ever not looked me in the eye. That was Kelvin Sampson on Chris Senak. The reason that is, I think, very relevant is because this is a player who was who was compared to Khalil Ware in the past, someone who's got all the tools in the world, but an occasionally inconsistent motor, and the productivity didn't always live up to the potential. So, guys, we are going to start with Chris Senak. And I'm just going to ask you, for all 5 of these guys, are you in or are you out for the 2026 draft? And in the current state of NIL, that means if you're in, we're assuming that means you think he's a first-round pick. So, Trav, I'm going to start with you. Chris Senak, are you in or are you out?
I'm all in. I think this is a no-brainer, and he has a lot of the tools and markings that these NBA personnel are looking for. He's a player that made this decision to go to Houston intentionally. He knew his warts that he had to work on. He heard all of us talking and all the feedback given to him. He's like, Houston is the place that I need to go to. And credit to him, it is panning out for him. And he is on a steep upward trajectory right now, figuring everything out. Is going to be a real weapon. And he only elevates their ceiling down there at Houston.
I love it. Boone, Chris Senak, in or out?
This is the easiest one, baby. I'm all the way in. Senak's an easy, I think, lottery guy for me. Houston this season has been 9.7 points per 100 possessions better with him on the floor versus off of it. And Kelvin Sampson earlier this week, we highlighted the quote here. What we didn't include was that previous to his time at Houston, Sampson's evaluation of Senak defensively was that he played HYM defense, which is hope you miss defense. In other words, he wasn't really applying himself defensively, and we've seen him apply himself, and he's been fantastic on the defensive end for Houston. And he's really figured out a lot of things on offense and as well. And oh, by the way, Houston's a top 10 team. They could win the national championship. And Senak has been a huge part of why Houston has been so successful this season.
Chris Senak, 6'11", 7'4" wingspan, 7'4.5". He really runs the floor. He's athletic. I love the way he's been moving laterally defensively. Still has like some processing things to figure out, but definitely making strides. They've used him more as a spacer offensively because he's often next to Tugler or Sacco. So we haven't seen him put quite as much pressure on the rim as he might if he were in situations where you're playing the 5. But I think that's going to be a part of his game that's potentially going to be more of a factor at the next level. So I'm with you guys. I am in. All right, let's go to North Carolina for Henry Vesar. And Trav, I will start with you. The 7-footer, 2 years coming off the bench at Arizona, first year at North Carolina. Are you in or are you out for the 2026 NBA draft?
I'm currently out, and that's not to discredit him. I think he has been absolutely awesome for North Carolina this year. This is what happens when you, in the transfer portal, one of these things that we learned every year, fit and opportunity mean so much to the future success of these transfers. And it goes to a program that is historically great with big men, and there is so much opportunity for him. And he's showing his inside-out game, which I love, and I think NBA teams will really like. But the age will definitely hinder what he can make in the first round of this year's NBA draft. So I think it'll actually be more profitable for him to come back, earn more off NIL. And next year, as we have said, and we'll say time and time again, next year's draft is wide open, and there's going to be a lot of money to be made in the 2027 NBA draft.
Boone, what say you?
Yeah, I'm in. I know you have him at number 26 on your big board. I think that's about right. More in than out. I think it's going to end up being probably pretty close, but he's definitely made himself some money this season. North Carolina, we're going back to net rating, 32.5 points per 100 possessions better when he's on the floor versus when he's off the floor. His shot chart data is like super interesting too, to kind of dug into that earlier. He takes almost exclusively shots at the rim, which is not surprising. He's a 7-footer, but also above the break 3-pointers. So he's very versatile in how he's scoring. I think UNC is doing a really good job of maximizing his potential. His block rate this season has dropped significantly. I'm curious to dive in to see exactly the reasons for that. But I think defensively, he checks a lot of boxes as someone who can play down low, physical, does a lot of different things, and then the offensive versatility as well. So, yeah, I think there's a lot for Vesar here, and I would be in on him as a first rounder as of now.
I'm not going to lie. Vassar is one of my favorite bigs in this class. I love him. He's got real NBA size. The shooting has been real. He's got force around the rim now. Like, he turns the corner, whether it's off a DHO or a post, with some real pace and strength, and he attacks the rim with aggression. He can pass the ball. I'm with you, Boone. The defensive, the shot blocking numbers are a little bit concerning. I think he finds himself out of position at times, but at the same time, he's been really good with verticality. And this is the whole point of this draft, right? Like, these centers are debatable, but I am way in right now on Henry Vassar. All right, let's keep it going. I think Trav and I are going to flip on this one as well. Let's stay in North Carolina. Patrick Gamba. Trav, in or out?
I don't know if you got me right on this one. I'm actually out on Patrick Gamba as a first rounder this year. He is a player that I am very high on, but there's a history of injury there that I think he has to continue to prove. And also there's a bit of an unreliable factor to him this year, and it really comes in the foul department. And that's been the case for both seasons at Duke the last 2 years. And as good as he is, as smart as he is with the passing, the potential as a floor stretcher, there's more that I want to see from him, especially from a consistency standpoint for Duke this year to really, and also from the injury history to make that leap and show it one more time next year before hitting that NBA draft. And again, like Henry Vassar, as good as he's been, and I think he could get drafted in the first round this year, I think there could be more money to be made in the 2027 NBA draft.
Yeah, you're right. We are more aligned than I thought. Boone, what do you got?
Yeah, I think I'm in. You have him at number 28. I also think that's about right. I hate agreeing with you, Fink, but I think that's probably pretty accurate. As Travis alluded to, like, there's some injury history. I think the way that he's playing this season, I think he just capitalizes on that, goes and potentially gets drafted late in the first round. Defensively, he's been very good. Duke has been, roughly 12.5 points per 100 possessions better when he's on the floor versus off of it on defense. And this is a guy who, like, just kind of checks a lot of boxes for me when I'm evaluating bigs, just in general. Like, he's a lob threat. He's someone who can block shots, can play above the rim. There's not a ton of, like, shot versatility. This is not a guy that I am going to expect to be a stretch big, at least not right away. But for what he does in terms of playing above the rim, adding verticality, being kind of a force down low, this is someone who I think with a late first round pick, I certainly think that would be really good value for an NBA team.
All right, I'm intrigued by the archetype, the size, extreme length. I'm not sure he's going to measure out at 6'11", but the length is undeniable. Protects the rim, really big in drop coverage, efficient finisher, big time passer. I'm interested to see if the shooting can go to another level. And to Trav's point, Cameron Williams is not Cameron Boozer. So it's going to be, if he comes back, he's got a chance to be much more of a focal point for Duke, and I would expect them to prioritize him in their recruiting efforts. Let's talk Ade Mara, who's obviously having a breakout season in Michigan after 2 at UCLA. Trav, for the 2026 NBA draft, are you in or are you out?
I'm all the way in. This is the player that we thought we were getting when he made the move over to the United States, coming to go to play at UCLA. The size is extremely real. 7'2", 7'3". He's long. He's extremely smart. He's a great passer, very talented, sees the floor and has a lot of skill, can score around the rim, catch lobs, and block shots. I think this is a guy that, again, is exactly who we thought we were going to be getting. And it took him a little longer to settle in and find the right spot for him. But here we are today, and he's been one of the best transfers in the country.
Boone, in or out?
I'm out. He just turned 21 years old. We are starting to see like some potential that maybe we initially hoped to see at UCLA. But I think for someone who has been in college several years, that's kind of expected developmentally on this trajectory. His block rate has dropped a little bit at Michigan. I think he's a pretty good passer. This is a guy who I think can fit a role in the NBA. But in this 2026 NBA draft class, that it is so deep, especially with bigs, I think Mara is someone who I will end up probably having a second round draft grade on.
7'3", 7'6" wingspan. He's massive by NBA standards. He's got real savvy as both a screener and a passer. A lot of dexterity around the rim too, with all his flips and stuff. Body concerns me a little bit. The shot blocking numbers, although it's not always like aesthetically dominant, are really intriguing. Boone, you said it. The shot blocking was actually better last year at UCLA. So I am intrigued, but I think he's going to have a higher asking price in college. Last guy, and Trav, credit to you. This is someone you had flagged a couple weeks ago, so I wanted to give you the chance to run with it. Masamba Diop at Arizona State. Tell us if you're in, if you're out. I assume you're in, and why that's the case.
I'm trending towards being in, not necessarily saying I'm out. I'm still learning more about him, but been watching him very closely. He's been generating a lot of noise over there at Arizona State, and he's 7'1" big man that is extremely mobile and shows a lot of different kind of exciting skills that he possesses with his ability to put the ball on the deck, make different types of passes off the dribble and making different reads. He finishes above the rim. He's averaging nearly 2 blocks a game. So with the ability to run the floor, block shots, and score in a variety of ways, shooting over, I want to say 70% around the rim. There's a lot to like, and he's one that we didn't know about. He kind of caught us off guard when he committed to Arizona State, but he has been absolutely tremendous for him.
Boone, real quick, in or out?
I think I'm out right now. We'll see. I need some more information is basically the judgment here with Diop. Like, you watch his shot, very funky release. It's mostly been effective this season. I'm not sure how sustainable that is. The shooting long-term, the mechanics are a little bit off, but defensively, he has been a monster. He's got great size. He checks a lot of boxes. Let's kind of continue to monitor him. He could end up playing his way into the first round, but right now I think I'm out on Diop.
21-year-old, 7-foot freshman. Here's what's really intriguing to me. Although he's shooting 77% from what they call the rim, when you go and watch his film, this guy loves like the short middies. He loves the short roll into like the 8 to 10 footer. He's really good in that area. I am intrigued, and credit to Trav for putting him on the radar. Guys, great stuff. We're going to continue to do it throughout the course of the year. Don't go anywhere, though. Isaac Trotter's coming up on the show next, and we're going to talk about the best offenses in all of college basketball. That's next, right here on the CBS Sports Network. Welcome back into the CBS Sports Network, where we're going to talk about the best offenses in college basketball, because who doesn't like offense? Now, according to KenPom.com, which is the most often statistical site cited, if you will, by college basketball coaches, the top 5 in the game are Purdue, Alabama, Illinois, Arizona, and Gonzaga. Now, what's interesting is stylistically, those are very different. Purdue plays with 2 bigs. Alabama plays with a whole lot of guards. Purdue pounds the ball inside. Alabama shoots a whole lot of threes. So successful offense comes in a lot of different ways. But right now, Isaac Trotter and I are going to break down 4 others, or at least one of these 5 and 3 others, that are particularly interesting to us as the resident nerds over here at CBSSports.com. So Trotter, the first one we flagged was Texas Tech. They are currently 18 overall in KenPom, so they're very good. But what stands out to you about this attack?
I think the best part about this offense is how they tailor everything to their players' strengths so well and so easily. You know, with JT Toppin, what is he so good at? He loves to get to the middle of the floor for 8-foot runners. Texas Tech's offense is spaced perfectly. They always have shooters in the corner. They're always clearing out open sides for him to get to the middle of the floor, playing in that middle third, and he can get to work. And I think the beauty of this group is that they also recruit the transfer portal so well to fit their offense and fit their strengths. And, you know, they found something as like with big wings that can back you down and draw 2 to the ball, then play out of it with Darian Williams. So they go into the portal and they go get Lawan Watts, who's really good at all those same things, getting to a strong right hand as a post-up threat. So offensively, I think the best part about Texas Tech, too, is that their hammer, the number one thing they do well, the Christian Anderson, JT Toppin pick and roll, is almost unguardable. I would put it up there with any 2-man action in all of the sport. And the offense is just so perfectly, you know, spaced around them that they feel like they get a really good shot almost every single trip.
I'm glad you brought up Watts, because I was talking to a opposing coach who had the game plan for Texas Tech this year. And he said when Watts is playing his best, it changes the dynamic so much. The other thing that was really emphasized to me is they don't do anything that's overly complicated, but they're so precise in what they do. You mentioned that Toppin Anderson ball screen. This is a team that ranks in the 90th percentile in pick and roll. And then if they don't get the pick and roll, they'll turn the roll into a post up and they'll play through Toppin there. So the way this coach phrased it to me was they basically say, yeah, this is what we're doing. What are you going to do about it? You know, like it's not brain surgery what we're doing, but we've got dudes. We're going to put them in the right situation. We're going to put them in the right spacing around them and allow them to play to their strengths. So I thought that was a really interesting point. All right, the other offense we're going to talk about is, or one of the other offenses, I should say, we're going to go to the mid-range major ranks, because St. Louis has what I think is one of the most aesthetically pleasing offenses in all of college basketball. Like, if you are an X's and O's guy, watching St. Louis play is just sheer joy. Trotter, what can you tell us about Josh Schertz's attack here?
You know, I compare St. Louis's offense to watching a really high-level offensive coordinator in the NFL go to work. And it's really layered concepts on top of each other. Sometimes smalls will set screens for bigs. Sometimes bigs will set screens for smalls. Sometimes wings are setting screens for wings. You have to be, if I'm trying to guard them, I'm like, man, like they have so many DHOs. They're having all of these off-ball actions. I'm really worried about the pick and pop threes. Oh, now I got to worry about the backdoor cuts. Oh, now I have a shooting on that side. It's layered, and they build off of their actions over and over and over again. And the one thing that they really try to do at a high level is to score layups without a dribble. Those non-dribble layups are like essential for St. Louis's offense. And when they're doing that, they're able to score early in transition. They're able to get it in half court. They have the stretch five. They have great cutters. They have great shooters all over the floor. It's really, really enjoyable to watch, and a pain, a headache if you're an opposing defensive coordinator. I think Robbie Avila, obviously the stretch five there, has been terrific, but the growth and emergence of Amari McCautry, their sophomore kind of big jumbo wing lead handler, has really tied the things together for Josh Schertz. And the Billikens, I think they're the best team in the A-10, and this offense is just a problem.
So I think the marriage between Avila and Schertz, which began at Indiana State and has continued at St. Louis, I think that's the foundation. But it's almost misleading because there's so much versatility in their attack. I mean, they've got 8 different players who have led them in scoring at one point this season, 6 different players who average between 10 and 13 points per game. And then when you dig into the numbers, like, they are second in effective field goal in the country, 4th in 2-point field goal percentage, 8th in offensive pace overall. So they play super fast. And I think the other thing we've got to mention is they totally eliminated the mid-range. Forget about like tough twos. Like, they don't even want like long floaters. So they're totally out on that. And I just think that Schertz's offensive creativity combined with the unique skill set of Avila gives you like all kinds of different things. And yet this is what I think is really almost like misleading. As much as they can initiate offense through their stretch five, they can initiate offense through anyone. I had someone tell me that is truly Schertz's genius, is that he can leverage anyone, the unique part of everyone's game, to get the dominoes flowing. And I just implore anyone watching, if you haven't seen St. Louis play offense, go watch them play offense. But the ironic part is statistically, they're actually better on the defensive end of the floor. So they're a very fun watch. All right, Trotter, let's talk about a team that you have seen plenty of. Illinois, we said it at the start. They are the 3rd best offense in the country. You've seen them live, I assume, on a number of occasions. So what is it that makes this group unique?
I think offensive coordinator Tyler Underwood's a stud. He does a really, really good job of opening the paint 24/7. And Illinois does creative things where they use their bigs as spacers, whether from the slot or from the corner, because their bigs are the best shooting front court in college basketball. They're getting nearly 93s from their 4 primary front court players. But then they use the smalls in, the dunker spot. Keaton Wagler is now being shifted to playing on the ball. That means that Kylan Boswell, he's 6'2", 6'3", kind of like a fire hydrant center type of guard. He'll be a screener. He'll load up in the dunker spot. Illinois just gets into crevices and finds ways to problem solve in lots of different ways. And the result is an offense that has been the best half-court offense of Brad Underwood's era. They've had 5 guys score 20 points a game multiple times per year. And this is a team they're just a tough cover because when you double team them, Keaton Wagler's 6'6" and can see over the top of those double teams. He gets the ball rolling. They really play with pace in the half court. They move it at a high level. They have shooting everywhere. And so you can't double. And then when you switch everything, they can go to David Mirkovic on the block or Andrei Stojakovic to kind of hunt those small guards. Like, they're just a pain. They're just a real pain to try to guard with the size, the shooting, the IQ, and the feel that they've put together. And I think Tyler Underwood deserves a ton of credit. He is one of the most underrated offensive minds, I think, in college basketball that nobody really knows about.
All right. I love the point about Wagler, too, and his on-ball reps, because that has, as you said, not only allowed them to use Boswell in different areas, it's allowed him to be put in positions where he can attack a closeout. I think the other really relevant point for Illinois is they are playing deeper in the shot clock than they ever have before and forcing other teams to be that much more disciplined defensively, and it's paid off for a team that's top 3 in offense right now in the country. Last one to talk about here, Trotter, is Virginia. Virginia is a top 15 offense in the country, and they have been very impressive under Ryan Odom. We've talked about them at length. What do you like about this group?
I think the beauty and balance with Virginia is something that stands out for me. I think Testa Ritter is probably their best player, or maybe Malik Thomas, but they can get contributions from basically everybody. They have 6 different guys that have run double-digit pick and rolls this year. That speaks to like their ability to kind of get the offense going, get those dominoes bouncing in their directions with a lot of different handlers. Sometimes it'll be like the speed of Chance Mallory. Sometimes it's like the craftiness of Dallin Hall. Sometimes it's like the downhill force of Malik Thomas. They have pick and pop guys. Testa Ritter can hit pick and pop threes. Johan Grunlow, their 7-footer, can hit pick and pop threes. So they do such a great job of moving the basketball, and everybody eats. And it's a hard scout because you don't walk on the floor being like, all right, we got to take one guy away and then Virginia will collapse. It comes from everywhere. And I think in the era of like heliocentric basketball, sometimes that feels like it's getting phased out a little bit. Teams are kind of pivoting back to like everybody eats types of offense, ball movement. If we can have 5 guys on the floor that can threaten you as a pass, dribble, shoot guy, that's the area where I think Virginia is certainly ahead of the curve. And it would not surprise me at all if this group, with all this size, all this shooting, can make a second weekend run under Ryan Odom.
Trotter, everyone that Virginia puts on the floor is at least a capable 3. Even Ugana Onyeso is taking over 1 3 per game this year. And if you asked me in high school, I would have said no way. The other thing that I think really differentiates Virginia is their ability to find the advantage once they get it. They drill that time and time again. Passing is a priority in Ryan Odom's recruiting efforts. And once they get those dominoes dropping, like once they get that initial advantage, whether it's in transition, whether it's off a ball screen because they can pick and roll or pick and pop, or whether it's through mismatch hunting, they play with that advantage, I think, better than anyone, and it leads to a good shot. Those are not plays. That's learning how to play within the flow of the game. And I think Ryan Odom and his staff do a phenomenal job of that. All right, we are coming back for one more segment. We're going to talk about the most improved players in college basketball. That's coming up next right here on the CBS Sports Network. Welcome back to the CBS Sports Network, where Isaac Trotter and I are going to talk about our most improved players in college basketball with a couple of different benchmarks. Number one, these are players who did not hit the portal. These are guys who went back to their school and made a notable jump this year. Number two, we are not going to talk about Christian Anderson or Juke Harris because we've already covered those guys, but make no mistake about it, they are every bit as good in terms of the improvements they've shown as the 5 players we're going to list. So we've got one at all 5 positions on the floor. At the point guard, this should come as no surprise because Tyler Tanner from Vanderbilt has been one of the best players in college basketball this year. Trotter, his jump from his freshman season to his sophomore season has been extreme, and I don't want to, and a bit unexpected.
A little unexpected, for sure. I don't think that there are many players that have more on their plate than Tanner. The type of responsibilities that he's being asked to do for Vanderbilt is ridiculous. He's guarding the best opposing guard. He picks him up for 94 feet. He runs the offense. He has to make shots off the ball. He's the menace in transition. He does everything. One of my favorite stats with him, he has 14 dunks this year at 6 feet tall. He is on pace, since we started tracking all this stuff, to have the most dunks of anybody who is a 6-foot player or shorter. So he is an elite athlete. And then you see it comes up to when he has the ball in his hands. His stutter steps, his handle is nasty. 2.5 to 1 assist to turnover ratio. He has been phenomenal. Pretty darn good season for a guy who's a 3-star prospect. We didn't really know a ton about him as a recruit, and he has blown up to being maybe a legitimate All-American candidate, maybe an SEC Player of the Year challenger to LeBaron Philon. It's an incredible, incredible rise.
A guy who averaged 6 points and 2 assists as a freshman while shooting 27% from the 3-point line. Listen, he's under 5'11" without shoes on, but not only is he athletic, he's long, but he's not just an undersized athlete. I think that's the point I really want to emphasize. Like, this guy's crafty. He's got change of pace. He's got floaters. He's got wrong foot finishes. He's a great defensive playmaker, as well as someone offensively who can live in the paint. And he's also made real gains with his shooting. Now, I think the jury's still out on how sustainable those shooting gains are. He's still just 33% on unguarded catch and shoot threes. So that's a part of his game that's really going to have to resonate, at least for that NBA upside. But this is someone I think that is poised to make a whole lot of money in the portal, or potentially going back to Vanderbilt. Let me say this. He's going to command significant NIL money to play college basketball. Hopefully he sticks and continues to build what he has laid the foundation for at Vandy, but he's making money one way or another. Let's go to NC State. Will Wade has talked at length about Paul McNeil and his work ethic. This is a guy who averaged 4 points per game last year while shooting 36% from the 3-point line. This year as a sophomore, he's averaging 14 points per game and shooting 42% from the 3-point line. What else is it about McNeil that really stands out in terms of the jump he has made as a sophomore?
You know, I think there's good shooters and then there's great shooters. And then there's guys that make everybody on their bench stand up when they touch the basketball and are about to shoot a shot. And that's the type of level that Paul McNeil is at. You watch NC State's bench, they are rising as soon as he gets a touch because they think that's 3 points. And he is an elite movement shooter. He's somebody you can run off pin downs. They run off flares at a really high level for NC State. And, the other thing about him too, he doesn't make a ton of mistakes. And that's one thing that he's been able to stay on the floor because he isn't making a ton of mistakes. I think he's turned the basketball over just 5 times all year. And so there's been times where his defense hasn't been up to standard. And I think we need to see a little bit more from him off the bounce. But this is a player who is one of the elite special shooters in the ACC, and he really does transform this NC State offense. They go from a good unit to a really scary unit when he is on the floor, and his, gravity that he attracts is really everything.
Paul McNeil is a specialist, and he's an elite specialist. I mean, he's got good positional size. About 75% of his shots are threes, but on unguarded catch and shoot threes, as of today, January 16th, he's shooting 54% on unguarded catch and shoot threes. That's just ridiculous. And I think he's a more competent passer than maybe the context allows him to show. And I think your point about ball security is right on. This is a guy who has committed 3 turnovers in the last 10 games. So he has earned the jump, and it's great to see him living up to that potential we saw in high school. All right, another guy who is making a jump and really establishing himself as an elite shooter is Isaiah Evans at Duke. But this is a little bit of a different context because he was expected to make this jump this year, right? But I think in recent weeks in particular, he's been incredible. I mean, he's got 5 straight games with 17 plus points. He's been really aggressive. So what has stood out to you, particularly in that run?
Yeah, he's playing like an all ACC guard, and I think it really does start with being more confrontational off the bounce. He's gotten fouled on 25% of his drives, and we know that the jumper is the thing that sets him apart from everybody. He is an elite shooter, but his added burst off the bounce is really adding different dynamics to his game. He had against Cal the other day, he attacks a long closeout, gets into a little bit of a booty ball action, spins to his left hand, then dunks it all over a dude. We weren't seeing that type of rim pressure from him last year. His free throw rate has spiked, almost doubled compared to last year, and he's just rounding out his game. There are times where No, he takes tough shots. Like there are threes that like I wouldn't say are high quality shots, but for Isaiah Evans, they're good shots. And I think this year though, he's done a better job of reining that in lately. And then defensively, like I didn't have super high expectations for him on defense. He's been really solid, I think, on that end. Not great, but not a problem either on that end. And that's all you need from him. And I think he cares about it at that end. He adds a little secondary rim protection. He's improving in Duke's pretty switch heavy man-to-man defense right now. All of those aspects are really tying it together. And when the buckets are flowing and the threes are there and the defense is better and the drives are there and you get into the free throw line more, like there are times where I'm pretty sure he's their second best player. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if he plays himself into potentially being a top 20 pick.
Yeah, the shot making is clearly the niche for Evans. I also love the way that Duke uses NBA concepts to get him looks. You'll see him running off of pin downs and he'll turn it into ghost action. Everybody says they use NBA actions, but that's very rarely the case. And your point about the diversification of his game really brings him back to what we saw in high school, because he was not a specialist in high school. In fact, I also think there's more passing in his bag that we haven't seen yet. He's not always a willing passer, but when he is willing, he's a talented passer. At least that's what we saw in high school. I saw some commentary today that he's putting himself back in the first round discussion. I was like, when did he leave? Hey, good for Isaiah Evans. All right, let's talk Donnie Freeman. Donnie Freeman was one of my favorites coming out of high school. This is someone who looked great in the McDonald's All-American practices. And I think that kind of exceeded everyone's expectations of his timeline, almost to a fault. But he has now come back from injury, and as a sophomore, this is the version of Donnie Freeman that we were all expecting. He was a top 15 prospect coming out of high school. Again, he continued to ascend throughout the course of that senior season. But Trotter, he has been phenomenal since returning from injury. What stood out?
Physical. He's been really physical. And that's something I think off the bounce, like that's something I noticed. Like he is really heading to the basket with a full head of steam and being like, hey, if you're in my way, like good luck. Like I'm here and I'm going to go to the rack, either draw a foul or finish through contact. And the skill level with him has certainly popped with me as well. Like, especially as a driver, like he has those shot fake threes that he can get into. He can pump fake and drive it and get into the paint, play off 2 feet. Like it's just starting to come together. I feel like he's playing off of 2 feet better and the game is slowing down for him offensively. And when you play with that type of force at that size, with the skill level that he has, like he's been one of the best players in the ACC, and Syracuse has to win games for him to really start getting on that national perspective. But pound for pound, he's as good as any 4-man in the sport right now, in my opinion.
22 or more points in 3 straight games, and long-term, Freeman just checks so many boxes because he's got adequate positional size. He's making threes. He's athletic. He's a fluid mover. He's got good hands. And now we are seeing the diversification of his game. We're seeing more physicality, although there's plenty of room on his frame to continue to bulk up. He's got tools to be a productive defender. So it's all starting to come together for Donnie Freeman, and hopefully that's just a sign of things to come. All right, our last spot at the center position, Trotter, and this was a great pick on your part. Let me read you some numbers for Jackson Kohler at Michigan State. Ready? As a freshman, this guy averaged 3 points and 3 rebounds per game. That production actually dropped. As a sophomore, it was just 2 and 2. Last year as a junior, he got 21 minutes and he put up 8 and 5. So solid, like big man rotational minutes. And then this year, 14 and 10 as a senior. But this is my favorite part. He's a beast of an offensive rebounder, but the shooting splits, Trotter, 56% from the floor, 52%, I can't even say it right, 52% from the three-point line on over 4 attempts per game and 86% from the free throw line. And if this isn't a Tom Izzo guy, I don't know who is.
He is absolutely an Izzo guy. He is the emotional leader of this team. He's nasty. He's gnarly. He plays with an edge. He gives this team a whole bunch of firepower. And then he's also uber consistent. There are no off nights with Jackson Kohler. He has been a double figures guy every single game this year. He has 10 double-doubles this year. He's always a warrior on the glass. Even when he gets in foul trouble in the first half, it feels like he comes in immediately in the second half. Those first 4 minutes, he's like, I'm going to put my imprint on this game. And you're right. Like, the jumper has become a huge, huge strength. Every time he sets up for his, like, it's kind of like a push shot jumper, I'm like convinced it's going in. He has been one of the best players on this team. And he really is one of those like culture guys for Michigan State. Like, Michigan State gets everything out of their roster. And Jackson Kohler is a huge example of what can happen when you stay.
And I love the way that Izzo lets him express his emotion. They bark back at each other, and then you get the best version of him. He's got a great senior season, and honestly, it's great TV too. Trotter, you are the best as always. We will see you again next week. Don't go anywhere. My final shot's coming up next right here on the CBS Sports Network. We'll be back next Friday. Until then, you can find us on the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube page. Thanks for watching, everybody.